All right, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders coming off a victory over the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, it was kind of I'll say a thrilling victory, kind of a really heart-wrenching way to the way the game ended. Of course, getting that final stop, a lot of penalties, of course, kind of an ugly game, but the Raiders got it done. But underlying all the headlines, the Raiders made a smart strategic move that should have a big impact going forward for them. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, so the Raiders obviously got the win, but underneath all the crazy penalties and crazy stops by the Raiders defense and some miscues by the Cleveland Browns, the Raiders came out and actually imposed their will physically in the ground game for the first time this season. And a big part of that was a very, very deliberate strategic decision by Luke Getsy about the running game. Let's pull up this report courtesy of SI.com. Talking about again about the running game. Sunday's win against the Cleveland Browns proved that they are heading in the right direction in that category. In the first three games combined, the Raiders had rushed for 153 yards. Not good. In Sunday's game, they almost matched that number by accounting for a buck 52 yards on the ground. The main reason for the success behind those numbers is from the unique plays and formations Raiders offensive coordinator Luke Getsy designed for this Browns defense. He got his playmakers the ball in space and gave Raiders carriers a chance to make something happen. Brock Bowers at tight end got involved early with the jet sweep on the outside, while Tyreek McAllister got a few carries in space to use his elusive athleticism. Raider Nation knows that Zamir White and Alexander Madison will get the majority of reps, but providing more weapons to the arsenal will only benefit this team for the rest of the season. I think the big takeaway there is that Getsy is using unique formations, motions, different kind of ways to create misdirection and a little doubt in opposing defenses. And we finally saw the results in the ground game on Sunday. If they keep this up, this will be a great sign for the Raiders offense going forward. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Raider Nation in the comment section below. Obviously, like I said, kind of a heart-wrenching way to pull out that game. It looked a little nervous there for a second, but they made the last stand they needed to make. Give us your MVP of this Week 4 Raiders victory. I know a lot of people are going a bunch of different directions, but I want to hear from you guys specifically. Give us your MVP for this Raiders win and put them in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on the smart strategic decision here made by the Raiders?
Yeah, Nick, maybe Luke Getsy deserving of an MVP vote in there, a little bit different take because he's done something that I think when we saw the hiring of Luke Getsy coming over from Chicago, something that was kind of concerning. Does he have the ability to change? Because I don't think he ever really changed the offense to really highlight Justin Fields' skills. We saw some things happen in Chicago that we would have liked to have happened a little bit better. So coming over to Las Vegas, did he learn? Did he grow? And the answer is astoundingly yes. It may be 3 games, but 3 games, it took him to learn better than nothing. He comes up with a brilliant game plan, giving his playmakers, pass catchers, so to speak, the ball in space and letting them do some stuff. Like I said, the jet sweep to Brock Bowers, DJ Turner and Trey Tucker got some reverse handoffs in there as well. And those ended up going for touchdowns. So I think this was a really great strategy by Luke Getsy, and it's showing that this was a very smart hire for the Raiders. They did their due diligence. They looked into Getsy, and they see a man who has changed. He is really ready to turn that new leaf, to evolve the offense as the season goes on. And I think that's really important for this Raiders team going forward because I'll say it right now. You don't have your quarterback of the future. They don't seem to trust O'Connell. He didn't get the start. Minshew really not showing me anything that says, hey, this is a guy that we need to hang on to for the long term. So you need to get creative. You need to start to do some things to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers to win games. And I think we're starting to see Getsy is a guy who is capable of doing that. And that was one of the questions I personally had coming into the season. Would he be able to do that? Because he didn't necessarily do that in Chicago. So I think this was a really great hire for the Raiders. We're seeing the proof in the pudding from this game versus the Browns. Now, this is the Browns. The Browns aren't the best team on the block, but they do have some pretty good defensive players, especially in the run defense game. So I think, this necessarily isn't just, something you can chalk up to as luck. I think there is some proof to the pudding, some method to the madness, so to speak here. And I'm excited to see how he's able to continue developing, continue doing new creative play calls during the season going forward.
Yeah, you bring up the Browns' talent. This is a team, according to PFF, top 5 in run defense grade, and we all know the big names they have in that front seven on the Browns' defense. So this was no small feat, especially considering the injuries the Raiders were dealing with. And I think that's why so much credit has to be given to Luke Getsy. And we talked about it on a film review we did about Brock Bowers before the Sunday's game. We broke down everything Bowers is doing for this Raiders offense outside of just being a receiving threat. If anyone's missed it, check it out. It'll be at the video. It'll be a link to it at the end of this video. One thing we notice is that when the Raiders running game is really successful, usually predicates a lot on them using Bowers or other tight ends, sometimes receivers, in motion, get misdirection, add some confusion to the defense, get people moving, get your lead blockers in space, get your running backs an opportunity to get a defense a little discombobulated with some misdirection. And I think that's what we're seeing it, the continuation of it, or that's what we saw, the continuation of it this past Sunday against the Cleveland Browns, creating misdirection, sowing doubt in the minds of the defense. And I think going forward, you look at tight ends, whether it's Mayer, whether it's Bowers, or whether it's whoever, going in motion, becoming a lead blocker, or being a decoy, or these receivers on speed sweeps, right? All you're trying to do is to get the defense to just freeze for a second, and then you can out leverage them with some reach blocks, or your running back can attack the perimeter. That's what we're going to start seeing from the Raiders offense. And that's sort of the future, or really, I should say, the present in terms of running the football in today's NFL. Now, look, if you have a dominant offensive line, you can still get it done and run well. But if you don't, and very few teams do, have just an elite all-world offensive line when it comes to running the ball, you have to use misdirection. That's what Kyle Shanahan is masterful at San Francisco, Sean McVay with the Rams. We're starting to see that right now so far with the Raiders under Getsy. And like I said at the very end of that film review, this is how the Raiders can win, right? I know a lot of people love the talent with the passing game. We'll see what happens with Devontae Adams. Obviously, the two young tight ends are threats. But really, the secret to the Raiders' success offensively this season is going to be running the football with this misdirection, getting people in motion. I loved what they did in certain clutch time situations in their Week 2 victory against the Baltimore Ravens, and they did it to an even higher degree against the Cleveland Browns. It was the perfect move to make, and if they keep doing it the rest of the year, which I think they will, this offense will continue to only get better and better.